It is with pleasure that I call upon Tākuta Meihana Durie, Dr. Meihana Durie of Ngāti Kauwhata, Ngāti Raukawa, inevitably Rangi Tāne, Ngāti Porou, Ngai Tahu and Rongo Whakaata. He is an advocate of the advancement of Māori well-being through research, innovation and creativity, but he's developing a really original and, I think, unusual approach. E hara taku toa I te toa takitahi, engari taku I toa takitini e. Takitini means critical mass. And so his particular strategy is about considering Māori well-being collectively to be explored in conjunction with what he describes as wairuatanga, or spirituality and spiritual well-being. Where does he do this work? Currently, Dr. Durie is at Te Wānanga o Raukawa, where he has been the founding academic director, Kaihau Tū, of Ngā Purapura. And most of us, of course, Meihana, have extreme envy for your resource and that glorious building. Within the Institute of Māori Lifestyle Management, he is committed to empowering the whānau through exercise, sport, nutrition, and whakatupu, mātauranga, knowledge growth, and creation. Mensana in corpore sano. We need all of our energies, mental, spiritual, physical, to make a complete human being. And this is Meihana's vision. He's a previous recipient of the Sir Peter Snell Doctoral Scholarship in Mental Health, in Public Health and Exercise Science, and he is also deeply involved in the Māori creative arts as a writer and as a filmmaker. Nō reira, e tama, nau mai, haere mai, piki mai.
Ka tira tuatahi ake te whaere o te kāhui ariki kingi tu heitia me tō makau ariki te narawa atu koutou. Nō mātou tonu te honore me ki pene te kōrero kia tai a tinana mai ki konei ki Waikato i tēnei wā. Nō reira kia koutou hoki te mana whenua, te mana kāinga e kiana te kōrero Waikato horopaunamu, Waikato taniwharau he piko, he taniwha, he piko, he taniwha. Tēnā koutou i te manaki nui, ki ena o mātou kua taimai. Tuarua, ka huri ngā mihi kia koe e koro te kauwhakarite ia tātou i tēnei ata. Ki ana te kōrero ko te amorangi ki mua ko te hāpai o Kimuri. Tainu atu kia koe kei te whaia, te kai whakahaere o tō tātou whare kōrero i te rangi nei. Tēnā rawa atu koe me o whakaaro mo te whakapuakitanga mai o nei kaupapa i tēnei wā. Ka mihi hoki ahau ki taku hoa nei. Kia koe, i tai mai koe ki otaki tērā wiki, nō reira ka nui te mihi atu kia koroatahi i te miharo ngā kōrero. Tānu atu kia koutou ngā kai whakahaere, Leonie, Linda, nā koutou tēnei hui whakatū, ka nui te mihi atu kia koutou. Huri atu kia tātou e noho nei, e tau nei, he iti taku iti, Engari, me whaiwhai haere e te o ngā kōrero ko whakatakotohia ki mua i a koutou i te roa ngāki o tēnei hui. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tai atua nō rā kia koe kei te ahorangi e pau, me o whakaro kōrero i te rangi nā nahi rā, tēnei tonu mātou te wānanga raukau e te mihi atu kia koe i roto i te rā tūhonotanga. Well, thank you, Ngā Huia, for those warm words of introduction. I'm often reminded about what Mum and Dad used to do 40 years ago as well, so that's a nice theme that's developing. And the word 40 seems to be mentioned a few times in Ngā Hui in the last couple of days, but I do want to acknowledge your mihi this morning, and also for those of you who have spoken before us, he mihi nui kia koutou. If I can hopefully get this PowerPoint going, then we'll be fine. But I first actually want to reflect on the significance of one or two of the statements, rhetoric or rhetorical discourse from Professor Linda Smith yesterday in her opening address. Linda, say thank you for stating so vehemently, I think, the challenges that lay ahead for those of us who we might call emerging researchers or aspiring academics. The pathway that you described so acutely yesterday forced many of us, I think, to perhaps reconsider or at the very least ponder the nature of our future contributions to the advancement of Māori and Indigenous research. The hard path that you've taken and that others have taken, te ara whaiti, perhaps is a challenge for others to follow. On that note, evidently, as you're speaking, Linda, you'll be pleased to know that no one, not a soul, left the room. Such was the nature of the kōrero yesterday. Many of us were literally hanging on every word. But by the way, whānau, if you do need to leave the room during my kōrero, kei te pai, just make sure you come back before I'm finished. You'll see in front of you a video playing out, and this is the whare that Ngā Huia described earlier. Ki ana te kōrero i te timatanga ko te kore. And you'll see there, over the road there, on the video that's in front of you, some vacant rural farmland on the southwestern side of Tasman Road in Otaki, if you've been there. So while this excerpt's playing, I just wanted to throw up an example of what I think is hopefully a small contribution to the three themes that Leonie has articulated. And you'll see them up there. He manawa auaha, imagine the invisible. He manawa ora, explore the potential. He manawa toi toi, defy the impossible. So I'm really motivated by those themes, and I think they encapsulate what a lot of us are hoping to achieve at some point in time. While this is playing out, I do think the commentary from yesterday presented by Professor Smith around rhetoric, the power of rhetorical discourse, highlights the importance of the spoken word, and it probably highlights the importance of us coming together in a forum such as this to exchange kōrero and whakaro. And amidst all of the work and endeavours that we undertake. The oral tradition, of course, provides us with a unique vehicle for validation and dissemination of mātauranga, and that's an area of interest for many of us. Not only as a means of preserving and reviving existing knowledge, but also in keeping with the dictates of the oral tradition and the visual arts and performing arts traditions, and relaying these messages by mouth or by tinana. So I also acknowledge here the work of Professor Te Ahu Karamu, Charles Royal, I roto i ana mahi ki te whakapuaki e rā mo whakaro. Also reassuring to know that it's still all right for some of us to read off our paper, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my speech, and flick back and forth to this PowerPoint. Anyway, what I really want to touch on very briefly today, and hopefully I don't go on too long, I know we've got a bell down there, which is great. How can research contribute to the navigation of new pathways for Māori, for Indigenous people in a quickly changing world? So that's really the first theme. The second one is there a place for research within a broader frame of Māori and Indigenous cultural innovation and creativity? And third and finally, how can whānau-driven aspirations really be fulfilled and realised in that context? So just want to raise some of these things this morning and share a few snippets of work that some of us have been engaged in probably the past 2 or 3 years, not only at Te Wānanga Raukawa, at Ngā Purupura, but with other groups and other organisations as well. So I'm not really going to delve too much into hard and fast statistical data and empirical evidence, But importantly, just to really look at the sum total of Māori and Indigenous horizons. So many different ways in which research can take place. And this in its own right has been a really interesting research kaupapa for us. Ngā purapura, and I see the whare is, oh no, it's gone back to the start. Kei te pai. So looking at the conference themes again, I think that they enable us to think big, to look ahead. And you look at these, imagine the invisible, explore the potential, and defy the impossible. And hearing the other speakers yesterday and also this morning, I think that's a recurring theme that's going to come up in this conference. Incidentally, Te Wānanga Raukawa, if you haven't had the good fortune to go to Otaki, we're in the Guinness Book of Records, 1981, world's smallest university. 2 students, Piki Kiriyama and Pakake Winiata. Thankfully, we don't have that record anymore, so somebody else has taken that mantle from us. Ngā Purapura, as you would have seen, is an institution which is really committed to the well-being of whānau hapu and iwi, with a focus on guiding kaupapa or Māori values. So that's really just a nutshell about what Ngā Purapura aims to do. So again, just briefly today, wanting to shine a torch on some of the key considerations for us as Māori researchers, Indigenous researchers, particularly with a view to the future and looking ahead. One of these considerations is about shifting the focus of our efforts from the social collectives of iwi and hapu and focusing in on the development and the advancement of whānau or families. So you'll see there in front of you, there's some features that seem to pop up all the time in terms of research themes. The first one there, empowering the realisation of the individual and collective potential, or pitomata, and it's a fantastic word, pitomata, and I've only just heard it in the last year or two. I understand it's becoming more commonly used, and it's a word which really encapsulates the concept of untapped potential. Secondly, one of the key features, I think, is research that's by us, it's for us, and it's about us. So we're not getting other people to tell our stories, we're doing that ourselves, but we're doing that with a view to contributing back to our people. Thirdly, built on values, and I think Linda touched on this again yesterday, values that enhance the mana of people who are involved in the research, whether they are the subjects of the research or the participants or the key informants. I think that's a really important value, which again has been spoken about the last couple of days. The next point as well was sort of touched on yesterday, that research for Māori and Indigenous people, I don't think depends on the Western Academy to validate what we're doing. Although we kind of live in this world where we sometimes exist in this grey area, but we don't ultimately depend on validation from the Western Academy to tell us that our mātauranga is okay and tika. Finally, this is a phrase that Moana Jackson shared with us last year at Te Wānanga Raukawa. We were fortunate to have a great kōrero from Moana, and he talked about who we are, where we were, and all that we can be. And it's a reference to the past, it's a reference to the present, and it's a reference to the future. And I think that's a really important point for us as researchers, that although we're looking ahead, we need to take accounts of what's happened in the past. So those are really just some themes which we've started to see pop up frequently in the work that we've been doing, albeit for a very, very short period of time. But we're also involved in another interesting project, and it's been partially funded by Ngā Pai o Te Maramatanga. So it's a small collaboration between Massey University and Ngā Purapura, but it's really looking into the indicators and the determinants of what constitutes Māori ora in the context of whānau. So looking at the whakatauki Māori tū, Māori ora, Māori noho, Māori mate, and trying to identify what the key markers or indicators are of a whānau who are flourishing. They're not languishing, but they're flourishing, they're developing, they're growing, they're increasing their capacity. And so you'll see 6 points there which really touch on the things we've identified so far. I think this is a work in progress, and it's more than likely that we'll identify other markers of what constitutes a flourishing whānau. But in any case, looking at elements such as heritage, ngā mea I tuku iho ki a tātou, te ao Māori me o nā āhuatanga katoa, tuarua ko ngā rawa. So looking at wealth, is there sufficient wealth to be able to sustain a standard of living within a whānau context? An example of that might be access to a hunting ground, rangi, or a fishing ground. If whānau have access to those things, then it's a sign that there's a flourishing nature occurring within the whānau. They have access to assets such as a Māori trust fund, or an interest in whare or property or ownership of property. Those are some of the markers that are coming up now at the moment. The next one is whānau capacity and looking at educational achievements. So there's been a lot of development in recent times with the establishment of kura kaupapa Māori, whare kura, whare wānanga as well. So trying to get a measure on whānau capacity within an educational context. Levels of employment, the utilisation of technology, whānau transport, and if any of you are doing Iron Māori, at the end of the year you'll need a bike, he pahikara. So a lot of our whānau don't have access to transport. So we're trying to figure out if they did, would this enable them to flourish and to be more engaged in not only te ao Māori but te ao whānui as well. The next point there, whānau cohesion, looking at the quality of relationships within the household. So it stems a little bit from te whare tapawhā that Ngā Huia mentioned earlier this morning, but looking at the quality of relationships and whether or not there may be issues which stop te taha whānau being elevated. So we're often quite good at holding grudges sometimes within whānau. We don't go to Auntie's anymore because she still hasn't said sorry for what happened in 1987 and those sorts of things. So when we're talking about flourishing, so many whānau have small issues which have never been resolved. So identifying those things as well, although it might seem quite small, in the bigger scheme of things, it means that two families don't come together at Christmas or they don't come together for a hurito. So for us, that's a marker. Tūhonotanga, whānau connectedness, using societal institutions. So the ability for our tamariki mokopuna to access kohanga reo, kura kaupapa Māori, bilingual and immersion units, the ability to access healthcare, whare wānanga, universities, polytechs, sports clubs, to participate in community events. Those are all markers of tūhonotanga or whānau connectedness. So again, they're not necessarily determinants of te pua waitanga o te whānau, but they're certainly markers and indicators. Finally, whānau resilience. Whānau will flourish when they're able to overcome adversity and adapt to changing circumstances. And we've seen some awesome examples in the last day in particular of families and hapu and iwi who have overcome major hurdles, major obstacles in their history. So looking at resilience and I guess the meaningful intergenerational transmission of knowledge and values that are specific to a family or a whānau, but also including hapu and iwi. Just to move on, so that's really an overview of what we're doing at the moment. Don't want to go into too much detail, but just as an example of that, we've taken this whakatauki here, Māori to Māori ora, again, just to provide some indicators of what a flourishing Māori might be. And you'll see some pictures there. Those are actually on the top. Those are some of our students from Kawa Oranga at Te Wānanga Raukawa, and we've got a group of young tamariki down there below. Both great evidence of a flourishing Māori. So I think often we just look at the statistics, but we fail to see the visual images and the tohu that people are doing well. There's a lot of vitality, they're engaged, and those are good signs that we're doing the right kind of mahi. So indicators of a flourishing Māori, you see there eight parts of that puzzle, but we're probably still in the process of identifying other indicators or markers of a Māori which is flourishing. What's of real interest to the work that we're doing in Otaki, the ability for someone to exert themselves physically on a daily basis. Over time, that becomes a sustainable exercise, a sustainable activity. So we know that if somebody's doing that, more often than not, they're going to have a flourishing Māori. We've been tracking a number of participants in iMaori for the last 3 years, so we've got a small group at Te Wānanga Raukawa who have really turned their lives around and their lifestyles around. And we've been tracking their progress, and we're sort of getting the sense now from talking with them that their Māori is flourishing, and as a result of that, it's paying dividends in other areas of their life as well. The ability to hold down a relationship and sustain a relationship, again, signs of a flourishing Māori. To be contrasted perhaps with the Māori noho paradigm, okay, which is the second half of that whakataukī, that proverb, Māori noho, Māori mate. So using the word languishing, there might be a better way to translate that, but we've picked up on the word languishing for the time being, just to give it some context. So usually, often we'll hear there's people who are culturally disconnected. They don't have access to te ao Māori. They don't have access to kai kōrero I roto I te reo. Often don't have a connection to their marae, hapu, iwi, and that's quite common. And so, again, it's a marker or an indicator of a languishing Māori. Because that disconnect is there, it's having implications in other aspects of their life. Spiritual alienation, the inability to connect spiritually with things Māori, with the environment, to be uplifted by things Māori as well, I think is very important. Knowledge gaps, negative emotion. This one probably pertains to a lot of us here today, including myself. Little or no energy sometimes, lack of strength. Usually that's a sign of other things which are languishing in relation to Māori. Social isolation, being isolated from whānau, from friends, again, it's a marker, not necessarily a determinant, but a marker of Māori noho. Wairua and mana diminishing relationships as well, again, means that usually somebody in a relationship like that will have a sense of Māori noho. So just very quickly, you kind of pull all these things up and you'll see the four domains of whare tapawhā and their wairua, hinengaro, tinana and whānau. So it's giving us a little bit of a heads up about how to identify these markers in terms of the Māori ora, Māori noho format. So that's that. I just want to briefly touch on a couple of other things. Still got a bit of time, kia ora, a couple of minutes. The notion of toa takitini is certainly not a new one. So I make that point that, ka roa tēnei whakaaro e kōrero te ana, e whakahua te ana e tēnā, e tēnā, e tēnā. But it's something which is interesting to us, and it's interesting because we've bared witness to the benefits of critical mass in the context of exercise at Te Wānanga Raukawa. So you see some photos there of people engaging in sport, people engaging in exercise, but it's really an untapped source of motivation for health and well-being for our people. Looking at the idea of focusing our efforts around whānau and hapu and iwi and organisations rather than focusing health and fitness programs around an individual, which is very much an American way of doing it. It's a Western paradigm for exercise prescription. So looking at a new model, and again, we're not the first ones to be going down this track, but certainly support and promote this approach. Something else which is interesting to us is the use of whanaungatanga as a motivational factor for well-being and health. For example, the idea of being around for your daughter's wedding or your moko's first day at school is a really strong source of inspiration and motivation in relation to health. And so we started to kind of use those things, whanaungatanga, whakapapa, rangatiratanga, as motivators for people, rather than saying, hey, you need to lose 4K, or you need to get out and lift some weights. That process will always fail with our people. Eventually, it goes full circle. And so it's much, much better that, we've found anyway, that it's about finding values that people have a resonance with as well. And so, again, Māori men in particular have high rates, very high rates of things such as heart disease, gout, preventable illnesses, and whānau is a huge driver for Māori men, as it is for Māori women as well. But our experience thus far tells us that this is an approach which we think has some validity to it, and it's got an ability to be able to keep people on the waka and on their own kawa and in terms of their own tikanga as well, being able to express those. So really just, here's a quick shot. I'll introduce this photo to you as well. This is the Pulse. Yes, they finished 5th in the ANZ Championship. Also mihi to the Magic, kia ora koutou. But when we opened last year, and actually I think there were one or two of you who were at the opening of Ngā Purapura, we were lucky enough to have Te Mata Puninga, koera te rōpū I ākona mai a e pau te mara. Nā rātou I whakatūwhare te whare. The same day we had the Pulse play a demonstration game, but again the best thing about the photo is the fact that there's 2 generations of Māori there. There's the older generation engaged in elite sports, and then there's these young kōrero here who aspire to that. So again for us it's about critical mass and developing that notion further and using some strong positive images to promote that. Just to really wrap up, we're nearly there, but if you've read through the abstract, hopefully most of you haven't, but if you have, I was going to talk about looking ahead, and I've kind of gone off on a bit of a tangent, but these are the things that we kind of see as being big issues in the future, and it's happening right now too. So there's going to be more kaumātua than ever before. So you really need to make sure you've got your pai sorted, because there's going to be more competition in the next 10 to 40 years. So we know that as a people, we're living longer now. We've got greater access to healthcare. We've got a greater knowledge of health issues. And we've got our own people out there in the community who are more ably equipped to work with kaumātua. We also know too that if we work very carefully and closely with tamariki when they're young, and so some really good examples there, when they get to their 30s, 40s and 50s, going to be much more inclined to have a good level of rangatiratanga over their health in their 50s, 60s and 70s, 80s, 90s and beyond. So the challenge for us as researchers is that we need to think about our kaumātua. We need to look ahead 40 years from now and try and figure out how we can ensure that our kaumātua don't have to rely on health services. So again, longitudinal projects are the order of the day for those of you who are into that kind of research, but also I think exploring notions of well-being. You'll see on the other side there another note, which is really about migration and immigration. We know at the moment that huge numbers of our whānau are going to Australia. There's some who are coming back because the mines are closing up, but there's a large number of Māori who live in Australia who don't have access to te reo, they don't have access to knowledge about tikanga, they don't have access to whakapapa. And we can either ignore that or we can take up the challenge and start researching ways that we can embed those things within their environment and give them the tools to live as Māori overseas, wherever that may be. So again, hey, another challenge for us as researchers. There we go, we're nearly there. I'm going to just flick through, I'll come back to this one in 2 years' time if we have another conference. I heard Ngā Huia talk about Maui, which is choice, because I've got this slide here. I want to promote a project that I'm part of. And it's a first in that it's an iwi te reo Māori project, which is actually coming through in the medium of a film. But there's 8 iwi involved. The kaupapa is Maui, and each iwi has an opportunity to create a short film entirely in the mita and the dialect of the iwi. What's going to happen if we get the funding? If anyone from Te Taurawhiti is here, kia ora koutou. The film will be pulled together as one feature-length film. What's interesting about this paradigm, though, is that it's a new model for filmmaking. It's an indigenous model, which means that we're not reliant on having validation from people outside of the iwi to make this film happen. So 8 writers and directors, 8 stories about Maui, entirely in te reo. Just a quick, you'll get a quick look here of the iwi who are involved. If you're not on the list, kei te pai, I will make sure that they have a sequel ready. But you'll see that there's a range. Ngāti Tuwharetoa, Ngāti Kauwhata, Te Arawa, Ngāti Rangi Whanganui, Moriori, Ngāti Awa, Ngāti Porou, and Ngāpuhi. So there's 8 iwi involved in this, but what's interesting to us is that it's a new model for Indigenous filmmaking. So I really mihi to you, Joanne, for the pūrākau and the stories you shared with us. Certainly exciting times. Nō reira, e te iwi, me mutu I konei ngā kōrero. I kia i te timatanga heti taku iti, no reira tuanau i roto i te humarietanga, me ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa, ko whai taringa mai ki ngā kōrero kei tēnei. Kia pai te roanga ki o te hui, ngā mihi tonu kia koutou i whai taringa mai i tēnei o ngā ata, no reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou katoa.